So before we start today's episode, I just want to make a shout out to one of our biggest sponsors of today's video. One being R-strategist. So if you're a content creator looking to start out and you want an affordable place with our content creation studio, plus very many other places like kitchen space, amenities, swimming pool, then you should check out Affinity Media using the link in this bio. Our other sponsors Revolve. If you're looking for a professionally looking thumbnail and you want your content to stand out because someone decides whether to click on your content or not, depending on your thumbnail in those first 10 milliseconds. So check out Revolve Uganda, follow the link in this bio. And if you love the thumbnail on this very video, then you should definitely check them out. So Joan, we have a tradition and we are going to talk about it. It's quite new. It's only been practiced, I think, on one guest, but it's a tradition, I guess. Yeah, I ask an icebreaker question just to illustrate to the conversation. So yeah, if you were to listen to one song, I think for like your eternity, what song would you pick? Just one.
That's tough. Okay.
Yeah.
If I was to listen to one song for eternity, can't I pick two?
Okay, pick two.
Because I feel like in order to exist, you need to have.
Okay, if I'll do your top three.
Okay, top three.
Yeah.
That feels so much better. Alright, let's see. Now I feel like I dubbed myself into a fill. Okay, the first one would be Yet. I think everyone knows that's a gospel song. That don't. Which if I could sing, I would, but you guys, I can't embarrass myself. Then actually, let me just check my phone so that I actually give the references. But the second would be Keshi, Soft. So really, if you're romantic, okay, it's a really nice song. And it makes you feel good on the inside. And yeah, if you're in a very compromising situation, you might think that you like a person when that song plays. So don't do that. But Keshi, Soft is number one. And number two would be okay, this is a very sad song. It's called Molto. Molto, yes. It's a OPM song, original Philippine music. So it isn't really like Tagalog. And it's a sad song that makes me feel sad but happy at the same time. It's like Kafatsu, but yeah. So Molto is a really good song, and yet trying to find others. But those are my top three. The romance based, and they make you feel good. Yes.
I thought I'd know like at least one, but
I'll definitely game up feel like yet. I'll check this much for on my hair.
I'll definitely check it out. So today's topic, ladies and gentlemen, is a sexual revolution. So I think for better reference, I think then you need to watch the first part, which was feminism and the patriarchy, which is also, I'll link it down in this video in the bio. But today we're going to be talking about the sexual revolution. And I know most people are like, huh, what's that? Now, I'll let Joan do the defining and then we shall dive right into the conversation.
Hi guys, my name is Huamahura Joan Kaitaniro, but that's a mouthful, so just call me Joan or Jo if we're close. Yeah. And I'm very passionate about diverse topics and I love knowing more. So I'm not really picky with I don't do politics. I don't do stuff to do like the economy. I am. It's just it's kind of bored and you don't want to get into things you're not ready for. But for this specific topic is something I love talking about because all of us are one way or another we are all affected by this. Because people say, oh, I'm not a feminist. Even if you are or aren't, it still affects you because you're living in a world where it exists. You can't, when you introduce something, it can't be de-introduced. I don't know if there's a word for this. Yeah. Yes. So when you talk about sexual revolution, just think of sexual liberation. That's, when you sum it up, that's all it is. Sexual liberation. And if you're to go into the nitty-gritty of what it actually is, it's basically a movement that was very active in 1950s to 1970s in America, where people were going against the attitudes, the norms that were known about sex, sexual identity, sexual orientation, and all that. But if you want to really know what it's about, you have to think about the effects. What has it brought about? And that's when you bring things like back control. Because when you think of sexual liberation, it means now you have every single person has liberty to express themselves sexually. So, and actually, the main reason why it was a big thing was because women didn't have as much. And when they finally did, it was very obvious from whether you look at it at a religious aspects, cultural aspects, social aspects. It was very evident because women are more than half the population. So when something happens and it's big and it's a change with them, it's very evident. So when we think about the effects of this, like back control, that's when the pill was introduced. And this meant that women are now more, they're at more liberty to have sex without fear of getting pregnant. Those days, if you slept with someone, you just knew that I am going to get pregnant. And you didn't have control over it. But now they do. And people weren't happy about that because we were living in a very conservative era where they said, oh, if you're a woman, you're not allowed to be promiscuous. But when you look at what they meant by promiscuous, it meant entertaining more than one man. But that's what the men were doing, and it was very normalized. And I mean, if, excuse me, and I mean, if you try to look at it as a way of keeping your morals, women are told, keep your virtue, keep, stay decent, but it's only benefiting the other counterpart. And many women were like, I don't want to sign up for this, and I'm going to fight against it. Obviously, some women are okay with it. We're not bashing those who are okay with it. The movement is meant to say, if you want to, you should. That's it. It's not saying, oh, now everyone should sleep around, should have casual sex. No. It's saying if you want to do it, you can. But people confuse this aspect of if you are given a space to do something, you have to do it. And I think that's where the misconception comes in. Yes. And then should I say after effect that came about it was autonomy, body autonomy. The fact that women had now control over how they could go about their lives. If they wanted to date someone but they weren't sure, they could now have the liberty to be like, you know what, I'm going to test waters with this person, even if it involves sexual pursuits. Yeah, it gave us more control. Even when you were the doctors, they will not tell you, oh, why are you coming here for all this when you don't have a marital partner or you don't have a significant other. No, because now you had more bodily autonomy. But the bad thing I could say, because sexual revolution is a big thing, it's good. It's just everything good that comes out also has bad things. With the whole revolution coming out, it meant access to stuff like pornography much easier. And obviously, people are affected by that. Kids were affected by that. You have kids right now, they can see, like, a little girl who's like 8 would tell you, like, yeah, I was seeing a guy's penis. And it's normal. But those days, and I'm not saying it's a good old days because we don't know what those days were. We weren't there. But it had a good way to keep your innocence and childhood. Like, you could live as an 8-year-old, as a 10, 15, and you're living a life. But now you can't even be that age and not you are desensitized from all those things because it's just coming at you from everywhere. Yes. And when more porn is brought into the community, that means more sex crime. Because when people find out that, oh, this is how sex is done, and what you try is, even if you have that puberty stage where you get curious, it can come before that. It can even increase your impulse, and because now you know what to do, but before you do know what to do. And one thing I can say is that's a bad aspect, but the introduction of birth control and safe abortion is what I think kind of tries to tackle that problem. Because when you think about, you can't avoid the inevitable. If something big is coming up, it means that it's going to have a few tiny side effects that you didn't plan for. So yes, things that I believe tackled each other was bad thing. Porn was a big, like, it increased and all that stuff. But another thing of sex revolution is it introduced ways to tackle that. So in a way, it wasn't so bad, in my opinion. Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
What do you think?
I don't think it was that bad as well because from you, I think it was a very and breakdown, by the way, a way you broke down the sexual revolution, what caused it, the birth control pill, and people have sexual autonomy and bodily autonomy still. Yeah, I think that was a brilliant breakdown. I just want to like add something very small that before I answer your question, that's into the industrial revolution. So men had died in the World Wars, World War One, World War Two. Now women are allowed to work. But then people are saying it was a significant, improvement in women's rights. But then they face this problem of that. Remember, it's a capitalistic society and capitalism awards competence. So every time women would go off to like work and every time they would become mothers, by the time they come back, they can't compete at the same level as a man. So it kind of created that, imbalance. So they needed something to mitigate that. And then enter Rock and Pickers. They invent the birth control pill. So now they are saying that you do not have to become pregnant, right? You can remain and compete favorably at the same level as a man. You do not have to step away, which raises a lot of questions, which we are going to address because, yeah, it's quite, it's I don't know how to exhaust it, but yeah, it created a bit of an imbalance because now we are looking at feminism now being shifted to favor more. Okay, not favor. I don't think favor is the correct word, but it's now being used by like women in what? In capitalism, women in offices, in the professional world, in summary. But now, would you say that feminism caters for the mothers as well, which I think we'll look at as well? But yeah, to answer your question, do I think that sexual revolution has been bad? Other than because I think it just gives people a lot of sexual autonomy. So you get to have sex without consequences. It takes out that responsibility aspect of sex, and not just for women and men as well. But then I feel like it affects women more. Yeah. Because now I was doing a study on evolutionary biology. So there are two types of mating strategies. There is a K and an R. K maters and R-strategist maters. So essentially, K-strategist maters, and it's insects as well, but also animals plus human beings. So K-strategist matters really are these high investment matters. For example, before I could get access to your body, I'll have to take you out on dinner. Then you have to evaluate, am I competent? Do I have like the 3 P's: provision, profession, and probably protection? You get. So once I qualify myself to you, then you're like, I can give myself to this person. You get, I can now have sex with this person. But now the birth control pill will change this. Now this is where the R investment matters come in, because R looks at low investment. So for them, they want something to happen easily. Like if I wanted to sleep with you, then it should be easy. Like we should talk about it, and then you should be like, oh yeah, that's okay. But then before you couldn't do that because you know the consequence of sleeping with someone. And why it's worse on women, it's because when you sleep with a man, you get pregnant, and the man, nothing. It's just there. It gets to exist and go on with his life. For example, if the situation happen in a circumstance of like university, whereby time is so essential, you can't miss a year. If you go to Nigeria university, the guy gets to finish his 4 years or 3 years. But then the woman has to like take 9 months off to like give birth. By the time she comes back, it's, but now the birth control pill changes that. Now you can choose to like not take the birth control pill and not give birth in the first place. Hence, giving more access to R-strategist men. Now, these are people of one night stands, people meet in bars. Okay, not to generalize, but essentially that, yeah, people meet in bars. So it made women more susceptible to the dark triad men, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and I forget the other third character trait of those people. But yeah, essentially the dark triad men. So because they are manipulative, manipulative, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. So now they are able to manipulate women, and they get good at their craft because it's now possible for them to have sex with low investment. Now, one might raise the argument of, why are we putting women in a position of that they can be manipulated? Can they make a decision on their own? Well, I don't know the answer to that, but I think that's my analysis, that the sexual revolution, even with its advantages, like, for example, women getting to compete at the same level as men in all professional fields without taking that time off. And at the same time also, I think it has drifted to not all women to just serve women in the professional world, in my opinion at least, and neglecting the mothers. Because I was watching Candace Owens talk to, it was, I think, a Jubilee debate where they were debating between motherhood and feminism, and she was saying in her personal opinion that you can be a mother and do it all. But majority of the women were like, no, you can't. once you're a mother, it's a draining activity. And like bodies of women are engineered towards motherhood. That's why they have a lot of negative emotion. But then when you give birth, that negative emotion becomes sense detectors for like protection of your baby. So now you get engulfed in that kind of thing. And also I've seen, because there was trying to also evaluate causes of divorce. It's a multivariate research, but at least one of the causes was that essentially when women give birth, all the attention goes to the baby. So now what I'm trying to say is that women, when they give birth, it's like it's I don't want to say a burden, but it becomes part of them. And by the time they come back, they can't compete favorably. But now feminism is now protecting, because now with a sexual revolution, it wasn't. Mary Harrington breaks it down. I think she was like, before it was freedom of opportunity and freedom of care. Freedom of care was feminism for the mothers. Freedom of opportunity, feminism for people who want to compete in professional. Yeah, it was like that until this thing came in, the birth control pill. It was no longer about freedom of care. If you told someone, oh, I want to be a mom, they're like, really? With all the opportunities you have? And this coming from like fellow girls. Yeah. So that's one of the disadvantages I can see. Motherhood not being put part of the feminism movement. Then the other thing I can see is women being susceptible to manipulation easily because of those mating strategies. So for you, do you think feminism essentially as a movement right now caters for mothers?
Okay. There is something that she said that caught my attention about when in that debate Candice Sloan had on the Jubilee show, when she said now women can do it, or you can be mothers, you can strive if you want to enter the corporate world, climb the ladder. But the issue I have with such takes is it's assuming that we are all the same, but we're not born with the same capabilities. Even if you put two kids in the same situation, give them the same opportunities, they're not going to come out the same. So I feel like that specific thing doesn't really bring as much value, or it doesn't seem valid, because it's a case by case thing. We're all different. And that's kind of like how our fingerprints are. Nothing's the same. So even if you say, hey, if you want, I'm a maga, I have a PhD, I have all these accomplishments, I can do it, or why can't you? It's kind of projecting yourself and everything about you onto another person that has no similarity. Which brings me to the question you asked: has feminism catered to women? I believe it has catered to women, but just like the world is unfair, just because a system was created to benefit you, there are loopholes. There are ways that you can create a machine to do this, and an outcome that you didn't expect, you didn't prepare for, comes out. So I think that's how it is. Because with feminism, it has raised awareness. Women before didn't know some stuff that they could do now. Some women back then knew, my goal, I am being raised. I have to learn how to cook, to clean, to take care of kids. If I'm to learn any hobby, it has to be of value to a family life. Back then, women's hobbies involved crochet, sewing, anything that was valuable to do in the household. But now, if you have those, you can monetize it. We can actually make a livelihood out of it. And that's why I think feminism has catered to mothers. It's just that just because something can benefit you, if you are not lucky enough to find the resources and get the knowledge and be trained, because we all need mentors. Even if you know what to do, you read all the books, but if you don't have a guide, even in Christianity, God gave us the Bible. He said, read my word and you will know what to do. But he also knows that it's not that easy. Some of us are like go astray. So he left us with the Holy Spirit. We all need a guide. So yes, feminism has increased awareness, increased knowledge, and it has also increased opportunities. But if you are unaware of those opportunities, unaware of how to utilize them, it's not going to work. And I think that's one thing that feminism is trying to do. But by was saying, hey, you guys, if you want to do this, let's do this. But if those people who want to do it are unaware, because there's some people who don't have the access to the internet, and maybe they are in restrictive homes or abusive homes, where if you raise awareness like, hey, I think I want to try this, but your family or your husband or your siblings parents can say, why would you want to do that? What's the use? So you feel devalued. You feel like my take is pointless. So I feel like the environment will also help you. Some people who are born in a privileged environment that tells you, if you want to go for this, go ahead and try it. If you don't work out, there are other things, but others aren't that lucky. They know if I go for this and I go against my family, they're not going to be backing up for me. And I think feminism is trying to tell you it's okay, go try. And if you fail, there are so many other things. And it comes back to things we can't control. I think we had a conversation like this before where we are talking about we should focus on things that we can control. And then you mentioned, but there are so many things that we can't, they're very limited. But I think we are focusing on the wrong things. Because now we're focusing on if someone, like let's say I want to go to school, I want to become as educated as I possibly can. I just finished my bachelor's. So let's say I want to get a master's, then I go for a PhD, then I go for a degree in something else. Now that is something that's, if I have the resources, I can go for it. If I don't have the resources, I can try to go for or apply for scholarship grants. Now those are the things I can't control. But if I'm focusing on, oh, let's say my family situation, if I want it so badly, I'm still going for it. It depends on how badly you want it. And even if you want it badly and it doesn't happen, don't give up and be like, okay, this didn't work out. Let me just give up. Yeah, if you want something badly enough, you will find it. But the thing is, your environment matters. If you're surrounded by people who are negative and if you are not in a good mental capacity to actually stand up for yourself and be there, because we should be our own cheerleaders, our biggest cheerleaders. If you yourself don't believe in yourself, you're going to believe everyone else. So yes, the whole aspect of feminism catering to women is very, sorry, to mothers specifically. I think it does. You just need to have the right conditions. And just like so many systems that are put up, they don't always favor those that they were meant to. Because a system can be broken into. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I bring.
Yeah. So, some more. Yeah.
I was going to ask you guys, because now she's been saying feminism is like you can do something, so you should do because you want to do it, not that everyone must do it.
Yeah, if you want to. These, like you have the liberty to do it. There are no more restrictions. That's against your gender specifically.
Sometimes they organize feminism. Yes, those things are because I want to work out of a degree and want to not have my own money. So okay, now you pay for the bill. Step and do that. Or I want to dress the way I can, what? So you dress like that, so you ask for it. Okay. So
Okay. Let's talk about that. That's something I'm very gray about. So, what do you mean weaponize feminism? I get the point that.
That she brought us.
Yeah, but would you please expound on that?
Okay, from what she said, I would like to connect it to what you said about how now sexual revolution, now with like the men who are now manipulating women using that. The same thing with feminism. So basically, how I told you systems, there are loopholes, nothing is made perfectly to make it, to fulfill its usage. Everything you make, there's going to be an outcome that you did account for. So with the whole okay, it's something I like to add before this. Humans naturally, we have a way of projecting ourselves into other people, whether it's in opinions, it's in beliefs. We assume that someone is doing this because you like put yourself in their shoes. Like, if I was doing this, it would be because of this. So same thing with men. If they see women, they're like, oh, so you say you want to dress up all slutty in quotation, because it's objective for different people. So if you say you want to expose skin, I'm going to assume it's for my benefit. I'm going to assume it's because you want a traffic, because why else would you be doing that? Because again, not a generalization, I'm not saying all men do this, but enough men. When you are preparing yourself to go out, you are trying to show up as what you want to be perceived as. Like if you want to show up and look professional, you're obviously going to dress up really well, really neat. Even the colors won't be so flashy. So such aspects it's like they get every single thing that represents one and connects it to the other, which I find really lazy. That you think, oh, if this makes sense, that's why I don't like his metaphors and analogies, because it's never the same thing. It just shows you a relation. So men think, oh, I'm dressing up to look cool, to look presentable. I have to look like I have money. I have to look like this to attract another gender or taking Paris
For the female gay,
exactly.
they think we dress for the authority.
Yeah, but the thing is with women, we are very okay not getting attention from men. That's why there's this viral TikTok, I don't know if you saw it, that's well, an interviewer was going to men, past women saying, would you want to live on a planet with women alone? Every single woman said yes. Literally, every single woman said yes. Because we actually like we invest in our relationships. We actually take care of each other and we enjoy each other's company. We're not always trying to one up the other. But when they ask men, would you want to live on a planet with only men? I even feel like right now, if I'm to ask a guy, if I'm to ask you, would you live on a planet with only men? I don't know what you say, but majority on the video said no. And when you think about the reasons why, men don't give a shit about each other. Only when it's coming back to benefit them, which they obviously project onto what men do. Like, oh, I'm doing this to attract this because it's going to benefit me. But I will just want to feel good. So many girls, including myself, I can just be at home, I dress up, put makeup, put heels, and I'm feeling really good about myself. So what am I interested for? There's no man at home. But men reject so much and it infuriates women, and when women call it out, they're like, why are you bitter? I'm like, if you are doing something good, I will not be calling you out. The reason for a call out is because you're doing something wrong. So yes, the way feminism has been weaponized by men is they say, oh, so if you think you can take care of yourself, do it. I'm not going to do anything about it. And this is why I think men are more dramatic than women, is because I can give an example. I can hang out with my friends and I tell a guy, hey, what she said wasn't funny. Like, you said something that hurt me. And he's like, oh, okay, I'm not going to say anything now. Now that you're like, you took the wrong way, I'm not going to say anything. And you realize that they aren't necessarily thinking about what she said as an issue. It's them like being called out that they feel hurt about, which I think is a result of patriarchy when you are used to being catered to. Because for ages, men have been catered to. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing because that's the system they were brought up in. They knew that back then, if a woman is dressing up, is to attract my attention so that I can pursue her, marry her, all that stuff. That's how, and when you grow up in a system like that, that mentality feels natural, but it's not. It's an indoctrination that has been put in you from when you're younger, whether directly from your peers, your family, or indirectly from the media. So yes, that sort of mentality is very dogmatic. It also does not serve men. Because if you feel like when a woman is independent and she can support herself, it makes you emasculated. It makes you wonder the foundation that masculinity has been formed on is very shaky. And if you break it down, it's basically been formed on the oppression of women. Because the only way you can tell things apart is through comparison. Yeah. So if you see that men get a lot of validation from taking care of someone who's a damsel in distress, that's where like the chivalry, being a gentleman, doing nice stuff for women who can't do it for themselves. Yes, but when you find a woman who doesn't, is not interested in that, you feel like, what do you mean? You're not feeling good about what I've done for you? And it brings a question of why even being sincere in what you're doing. Because if I'm doing something just to be good, I won't mind if I'm not appreciated, because that's my nature. I just want to do something good. But if I do something good and someone doesn't appreciate it, someone doesn't acknowledge it and tell me, hey, good job, thank you, and I feel insulted, you should kind of question why they feel that way. If someone's response affects your character, it's something that you should question, because why would an external force affect how you are choosing to live your lifestyle? It shouldn't be that way. I think that's why it comes into question. Even the weaponizing of sexual revolution, it's a bad thing was going to happen either way. And this just happened to be is bad things can't, I mean, good things, good inventions can't thrive without something bad coming to either tackle this or fight against it. So I think this is just when women should understand, hey, if I'm choosing to exercise my liberty, my sexual liberty, I should also educate myself. Because the more you know, I think we're all seeing that meme or someone who knows so much is way sadder. The whole question of, I mean, the whole statement of ignorance is bliss comes to life. Because the more you know, the sadder you get, because you know all this facts, right? And you get depressed because you see the bad and the bad side. So yes, if you want to exercise your liberty, you should also be knowledgeable enough to see what could jeopardize that. Also, that's what I think.
I think you raise a good point though. Would I want to live on a planet by only men, of only men? And it reminds me of this research study that was carried out on the streets of New York. So essentially, if a man was moving down the street and a woman was coming from the opposite end, 8 times out of 10, the woman is more likely to cross the street and pass the other side. But then if that same man was moving with a woman, let me say probably a sister and girlfriend and mother, that woman stays on the same street. Because now what the researchers were trying to find out is that essentially that means men are socialized. So now that's how I would answer this question. How do you want to live on a planet with only men? Because the explanation would be because usually, now let me say the big 5 personality traits. Let me narrow them down to 2: agreeableness and non-beings. So usually they are very disagreeable. That's why there are very many men in prisons, very many men doing the killings, and because of that personality trait compared to women. So if the world was filled with just men, so there will be a lot of that, wars and stuff, so it will be unfavorable. But now, when you incorporate women, all men kind of get socialized. Because if you think about it deeply without like applying your ego, is that 90% of what all men do is usually to impress a woman. Like even if you go down to the nitty-gritties, that's what I would think. Yeah. Then I never thought about chivalry in that same manner of, if you get fist because someone's not appreciating your efforts or the work you're putting to impress them, then was it genuine in the first place? And I think that's the link I've been missing, because for a long time I was thinking it's maybe women doing it intentional to like piece of men, I don't know, like
Points.
yeah, to make a point. But now that you raise it that way, I think it makes sense, because in a way it comes from a manner of also entitlement on the men's side. Because if I feel like you should appreciate my efforts, because you should, because probably like you said, I've been indoctrinated to believe that I should be served. So now I'm in this era, even though like it's not apparent, it's not like visibly just there, it's still like within our genetics. We just believe that she should be able, like in that manner, or I've done something nice for you, you should be able to appreciate it because I'm above you. Like if a king went down and is like served a servant, the servant should be very grateful, right? And that's the thing I was talking to my friend about. Like when you encounter a lot of feminist literature, it changes the way you think about stuff. And most people will say, oh, you're being a pick me and stuff. But in actual sense, because my friend was like, there was that episode I showed with Nari Ashley, which was very controversial. Very many men were pissed in the comments because I have. Now, when I was thinking about it critically with my friend, I was telling him, but come to think about it in the racism kind of sense, if you told someone that you black people are now voting, why aren't you grateful? It kind of sounds weird, because why should they have never voted in the first place? And that's the same thing we are doing all over again. We are saying women are voting, women can now be in the job when they're grateful enough. And then the thing that goes through my head right now, prior, which would have happened prior, is that why is this something that exists that they should be grateful for? Like, why did it happen in the first place? So yeah, I think I get your point. Like there is a bit of entitlement in the mixture of like men centering themselves. Yeah, yeah, in summary. Then when we talk about the sexual revolution and the birth control pill, we can't avoid the abortion topic. What's your take on abortion?
I like to say I'm pro-choice, and when I say I'm pro-choice, there's a negative connotation from the conservative people.
Yeah.
Could say, oh, you want babies to die, but then when I say I'm pro-choice, it's like saying I'm a feminist. Feminism is basically the fight to have women on equal grounds, having an equal footing with their counterparts. And that means if they want to, they can pursue something that's outside what's expected of them. Same thing with pro-choice. If you have a baby and you come to the doctor shouldn't just say, oh, like come for the next checkup at this time. He should give you a choice and be like, okay, so do you want to go through or do you want to terminate it? That's the whole thing of pro-choice. It gives you autonomy over your own body, which women have been denied for so long. Because up to now, I don't know if it still happens in this age, but back then, if a woman wanted to go time her tubes or she wanted to have hysterectomy, she was married. The doctor would be like, first talk to your husband. Like, what if you want to have monkey? They'll ask you what if you want to, like, no, even if you're not married, like, if I think for right now, if I go to the doctor, chances are high, even if it's a male, female doctor, because we have internalized everything. Surgery to the anti-everything, it's internalized because we're born into that system. They'll ask me, but fine, you don't want to have kids now, but you'll change your mind, right? Just think about your future husband. You are putting first an imaginary person and putting me right now second to my own body autonomy. That's a problem I have with people like this, who I believe are just pro-birth because you care about the life. But once it's born, you say, oh my God, no, everyone deserves to live, blah, blah, blah. They could be the next, I don't know, Nelson Mandela. But then once the kid is born and the parent who you made keep the kid to full term can't manage to sustain that likelihood, now they're the bad parent. But if you let them choose and be like, hey, I can't keep this child, I can't afford this, even if it's a child, I feel like if you put restrictions that maybe abortion is fine if it's like a child under raped. But I feel like even if I was a 35-year-old woman, I know I could 35, and I engage in sexual intercourse with my partner and back controlled into a isn't about 100% foolproof. And I don't want to carry the baby to full time. I should have the choice because it's my body. But when you bring the conversion back to men, I hate having this thing of imagine if it was you, but that's the only way you can get through to some people. These days, there's a whole flow that's happening whereby if you tell men that just get to the sex only, it feels like you are taking their manhood away from them. I don't know why you feel that way. I can never understand. I'm not a man. But if you yourself don't have kids now, and birth control, by the way, is very harmful to women. If you see the birth control, this pamphlet come with prescription medicine, and you open it, it's really wide, it's really big, both sides. Those are the side effects of birth control. But women still decide to risk their bodies because they don't want to be forced to carry a baby because that's another responsibility. You are fighting for me to have a child I don't want, that you won't care about once it's born. So I'm fully pro-choice because you should have the will to say, I want a kid and I need to keep it, or I don't want a kid and I don't keep it. Because at the end of the day, your opinion doesn't matter if it's my life with my body. So it's now heavily pro-choice. It's about you.
Actually, that's one of the things I've not yet decided, because before I used to believe that I was pro-life, but now it's not evident enough in my own systems, because I think I've decided to, I'm trying to think about it objectively and also subjectively, and still doesn't make sense. Because I think I also wrote an article about this for those who read it. I saw a clip in Ginny and Georgia season 3 where Ginny comes and tells her mom, I'm pregnant. So now, that entire episode I kept thinking, if she was my daughter, what would I say back to her? And now, all of a sudden, being pro-choice starts making sense. Yeah, I think she should be able to, because she was in high school, going to college, now she's going to get pregnant. That's a whole year then, probably 3 years, because the baby needs attention and stuff, or if you believe in breastfeeding and stuff. So I was like, what would I tell my daughter? Maybe that will determine what my belief system actually is on the subject matter. And I kept thinking about it. I was like, I would tell her to do what she wants. And that's exactly what Georgia did. She told Jenny that you decided I'll support whatever decision you make. So I feel like most times we're just inflicting our belief systems on other people because, I don't know, because we're also indoctrinated. For example, I find it very peculiar that you grew up in a Christian household and you practice Christianity and you're still pro-life, because usually those things don't connect. And you don't have to make the connection expressly, it just happens subconsciously. If I grew up in a conservative household, which is 90% of African households, where we practice, let me say, Catholicism, we are Catholics, most likely than not, you're going to be what? You're going to be pro-life, because, they speak ill of murder and stuff. And I don't even know if abortion constitutes murder. There is that whole study of maybe the baby has already become a human being at a certain stage or at a certain month from there. Yeah. So I feel like we are always putting my belief system on other people, because if I was asked myself, why was I pro-life before? I don't know. Maybe it's because I grew up in a Christian household and it's usually highly conservative. So you end up being pro-life, even though you don't know what caused it. So to answer your question, I don't know. Like, I'm in the gray. Like, if I was a leader, I think I would allow abortion. And this is not to attach any morality to it. It's just that I read a study that says people that are more tried to abort when it's not safe than they would if abortion was legal and free. Because now, I was watching that documentary. I think it's called The Liar's Quest. It's on Netflix. Learning about those days when abortion was banned and it was looked at as and frowned upon by communities. Very many women were doing it still on the side. So if I can't change the outcome, if I can't change the decision, because people at least have that ability to have the autonomy to do whatever they want, even if I make it a crime to abort, they still go to look for like small doctors and that kind of stuff, or maybe take herbal medicines, which is very detrimental. And one of your objectives as a leader is, I think, is to look out for the safety and protection of your people. So if I was a leader, I would legalize abortion and not based off any orality principles. But as a person, me, I don't know. I'm still in a gray, because my daughter told me, because it's easy to like be in a bar with your friends and they're like, are you pro-life? And they're like, yeah, why would you kill a child, But I think it's a real life experience, and it's your daughter telling me that, oh, your younger sister. Then you get to decide if you really believe what you say. So I'm not yet decided on that. I'm yet to decide, really. To be honest, yeah, it's still a very...
Tell us something.
Yeah.
This is something I failed to get a grasp on, where men generally, some women too, but majority, we're generalizing here, men can't understand a specific aspect unless they have a tether, something's tethering it to them, like they have a relation. Like how you said when you watched that scene and you said, I'm imagining it was my daughter, your perspective kind of shifted. Kind of from that understanding of why someone you'll be pro-choice, even if you grow up in those conditions. Because I had a discussion with a friend of mine. I kind of like talking to him about these things because we have different opinions. I like to, I'm a contrarian in most things. I don't abide or follow so many things that anyone realize now. And he always like brings me back. He makes me and like, oh, what you say is actually not known. Because he asked me if the way you feel about women's rights, how they have been treated, all that, you empathize with women regardless of the situation. Would you feel that way about a man? And in the first place, I thought, oh no, why would I? But then I started digging deeper. I'm like, how am I going to empathize with someone who can't even empathize with themselves? Because it's going to be interpreted as something else. If you don't understand something, like the concept of something, when someone else does it for you, you will kind of internalize it in a way that benefits you. Like how some men can say, oh, I can't open up to a girl who make fun of me, they'll do this, they'll do that. And granted, women who have internalized misogyny will do that. But the fact that you are now placing that on everyone, that yeah, if I do this, they'll make fun of me. But then the moment you do, you're also weaponizing it. Because some men, if they open up to you, they trauma down, if I should say. They want you to feel sorry for them. And sometimes just to get pity sets. They want to form that bond really easily because they know women easily. That's the I've heard. We are more emotionally in tune ourselves, so we are more touched when something sensitive happens or when we're exposed to that setting. So I don't think I am a mal empathizer, but if I meet someone who shows me that yes, I will call out men when they say something that's very misogynistic, like when your boy is going for something so harsh, he has lost, I know, a deal or he has been broken up with, and then you make fun of him like, oh, you are synced anyway, but you are not empathizing that person, that friend who's close to you. Meaning I can't account to my issues because you won't react how you're supposed to or how it's appropriate to act that way. So yes, I feel like I'm diverting from where I started from. It's making sense, isn't it? Yes. So yeah, when men only understand a situation when it's closely related to them, like there's a tether connecting them to a situation, I feel like that's when you should look outside yourself, because many things are like we are just a tiny bins go an ocean. So many things are bigger than us. So if you only want to understand things when you have a connection to them, I feel like it really makes you so much with how much you can connect to people. Because if you feel like I'm only understanding this because I'm putting myself in a situation, it's even how you are as like, should I say building your EQ? Yeah, putting yourself out of the whole equation helps. It also, and like burdens your aspects about things. Yeah, I think that's why I'm not okay with men saying like how you said it. Or I imagine it was my daughter, or if you manage your sister, I feel like your perspective changes. It's amazing that you came to that conclusion, like you understood that, oh yeah, pro-choice is a good thing because of this and this. But imagine you never have a daughter and like young boys.
I feel like that's the whole point of like fiction and literature. Because I know to had right now, but
No, I'm saying like, would you feel the same if, yes, fast, because we are prone to evolution. Our beliefs, what I believe now may be different from years from now, from tomorrow. Yeah, so you are feeling this now, but whenever we think or imagine ourselves in a fictitious way, it's never the same as reality. Like though you say, oh, if I'm to be in this situation, I think I'll behave this way until you're in that situation. You never really know. You just, oh, you're assuming until you are in that specific situation. So I think it's better to, fiction is good. It gives you a perspective of what could be. But if you only depend on that, it doesn't hook in a war. You're happy. Yeah.
so now you've raised something about masculinity, and this is what I want to do from you. But before I ask my next question, or what's your overview of masculinity? Because at least I've gotten definitions of masculinity, but it's been from old men who tell me, oh, it's this, it's supposed to be this. Now, as a lady, what would you say masculinity is? Okay, your perspective doesn't have to be tricolor.
Okay. It's by answer it. Can I ask this? Give me like 3 forms of applied masculinity. Just like any that you can think, yeah, applied masculinity. Like when you see it in your life, you'll be like, yeah, that is it. Because I don't feel like masculinity can be like, it's not tangible. And it's easy to describe it as a tangible because now you can have a clear aspect, like you have a clear picture of what it is. Yeah, so it feels intangible, right? Because it's not something that you can touch, so something you can feel or see. It's more like an energy.
It's actually a good question. If I was to think of applied masculinity, something other than mine probably would be uh, a man who has controlled like his desires, to be specific, sexual desires. I feel like it's such a big weakness in masculinity. So every time I see someone act it out, even if it's like in a movie or I read about it in a book, I just spots I'm like, oh yeah, that's the kind of man I admire or I want to be. Then the other one will be, and this one from personal experience, is that every time someone gives you shit, you just want to serve it right back. Like, why am I supposed to tolerate nonsense if you couldn't control yourself? So and I'm not saying you have to get physical, though it's very common for very many other men, because I don't know, but it's very common for men to get physical in that matter. But what I've learned about masculinity or applied masculinity, if I saw it in real life, would be that if you're being served with shit, the ability to hold yourself back. I think this rose more light to the theory of, I think, Marcus Aurelius Stoicism. It's it has a grounding, it has a good grounding. That's why very many men admire it. But I feel like you just take it to the extreme. We kind of block our feelings and our empathetic, neurons when we come to talk about stoicism. But its grounding and its objectives, they are very valid because I don't think you're supposed to be reactive. So if I see a reactive man, I'm kind of I'm not judgy, but I'll be like, you could have handled it better. Like, let me say, a waiter served to shit food. You don't deserve that treatment because you pay your money. But they're still talking back to them and proving maybe like you're in power and stuff wouldn't be like the best alternative. Maybe just talk to the manager or ask them what was wrong. Maybe they're having a terrible day. So you get to put yourself in other people's lives. I think what I'm trying to describe is empathy in general. Like the ability to be empathetic, I think, is also a true virtue of masculinity, plus not being reactive, being stoic in certain circumstances, but not taking stoicism to mean that you're going to block off your feelings. Because I feel like every time people read about that theory, I don't think people have even read that theory. It's just mainstream media. For example, people are consuming content from like maybe the Red Pill movement. People try to quote Marcus and, turn his views into something else. But if you read the theory for real, I feel like stoicism wasn't about blocking your feelings. It was just being non-reactive. For example, if you're having a shit day and you can't do nothing about it, why are you reacting to it? And it's very common. Or like, those circumstances of deflective anger. I'm so pissed at you, but we are married. Then I can't talk to you in a certain way. Then I talk to my kids. Then I beat up my kids. That stuff. So if you can't change the situation, why are you reacting in a certain way? And this goes back to speak. If you're facing a shit life, why you maybe... I was reading about these people participating in mass killings. When they describe their biography, you feel sympathetic and empathetic towards them because maybe they were sexually harassed in school by fellow men. I don't know if you watched 13 Reasons Why. Yeah, like that part of the broom part and everything. So when you think about it, you're like, okay, that was shit. But in a morally just world, would that justify mass killings? Like, should I grab a gun and shoot everyone in the school that treated me like shit? So I feel like non-reactiveness, but not swallowing up your anger. I think you can talk about it, participate in a conversation, maybe have a friend you can confide in, which is what women have gotten better than us, that aspect of friendship, because for us, we're usually seeking solutions and women just want to be listened to. And that's where the mismatch comes in, because if even before this would happen on various occasions, if I was talking to, like, let me say someone I feel responsible for, in quotes, like in my sister or a girlfriend, I feel like I need to give them a solution. They say, oh, this person is what, man, she's being a bitch at work. I'm like, just report them to HR. Like, what's the big deal? But then after reading Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, I realized that sometimes people just want to vent, which is not a lived man's experience, venting. And every time you participate in venting, most people think you're being weak as Zoon. You're betraying the laws of masculinity. So yeah, I feel like women got a very good grasp of what friendship should look like. And that's why people end up reacting in different manners. You're trying to practice stoicism by being non-reactionary, but then when something happens, you bury it under. And obviously, as we know our body systems, you'll find a way to manifest it in another way. So you end up maybe participating in bar fights, killing people, whatever will happen, because you did have a good system to let that out, maybe with your boys and stuff. And it's also good maybe to have like a bit of female friends so that they teach you what a good friendship should look like. And talking about your feelings does not necessarily amount to weakness. So yeah, I think that would be my example of applying masculinity.
Okay. Do you think masculinity as a concept should, be held by masculine people, like not masculine, by men? Explained it. I could have masculine energy too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But why is it frowned upon? Because masculine energy should be encapsulated by a man, because it's masculine. Ergo, men should have it. So with your theory, it means, like, if I'm to now describe feminine energy, I don't really believe in those energies. I feel like it's a gender role that was just introduced to make people have what to do and do their role to the environment, that contribution. So it learned to say, tell me energy somewhere here. You're good at nurturing. You're good at as they said, turning houses into homes, that kind of thing. But I'm not for do the same thing. But it's frowned upon when someone does something that they are inherently not supposed to. So do you think that that masculine athletic energy is really something that should still be applied right now?
And that's a good question as well. And it's also both ways. Because when I think about it deeply, and which I have, it's that, yes, women can have masculine traits or energy, as people call it. And I think it's usually from the pole if it's coming from a place of baby with your ego. Like you just feel like I should be the one doing this. Why is she being this? Or she should be in this. Should literally do this manner, but she's not. And I feel like we just need to like understand people and respect them in their own persona. For example, now how I was watching a long time ago, How I Met Your Mother. There's this woman called Robin. The way she was brought up, it's in the manner that her father, she grew up with like a single father and used to the activity should participate obviously eventually would lead to like to live a more masculine life per se. So maybe she loved like if people are saying, oh, we should go out, we should do this, maybe we should try and make her for her go to activity to be like, let's go to a down range, let's do this. You get what is considered maybe masculine behavior. But I feel like it's in very things the way she was brought up. So I don't know when we are born, what energies we are born with, but scientific studies come to show that usually women are born to lean towards things and men are born to lean towards things, and women usually their natural energy in their bodies to lean towards people. That's why if you look at Scandinavian countries, the ones that have achieved at least a substantial amount of feminism or equality, now when women and men are given the actual right to choose, like to fully choose, we find that in those countries, research studies has suggested that it has made the inequality gap worse instead. For example, like the gender pay gap. Because women will end up participating in low-paying jobs because these jobs involve dealing with people. For example, psychology, therapy, those kind of jobs, to mention that a few. Then men will lean towards themes, for example, engineering, medicine, you get. And as capitalism is as a system, without mixing it with the whole concept of feminism, is that capitalism will award competence and the most desired activity. So if engineering is more desired in an economy than probably psychology, notice engineers are going to get paid more. But if this is happening in a country where women are free to choose whatever they want, like Sweden, Norway, those kind of Scandinavian countries. So now it goes back to say that I'm not sure, but I have a strong feeling that maybe when we are born, there is a certain energy we lean towards too. But your late experience and maybe your previous genetics can also lead towards something. So it's a multivariate kind of equation. It's not one thing. We can't pinpoint and say, no, women are born masculine, or no, women are born with both. I feel like it's a mixture of so many factors. It could be the way you were raised, but I just think women are born with more empathy. Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think?
I agree to give up because, as you said, it's a case by case thing. Can't assume that everything is going to turn out the same just because of one occasion, whereby everything turned out how you expected it to. So the reason why I don't believe in you're born leaning towards a certain energy is because, as you said, depending on where you grow up, how you grow up, and I believe even if your parents were outside, you are still raised by something that's universe, the media, your peers, and I think that's why they are um people like how what's the song word for boys that are feminine? It's not sissy because sissy feels very derogative. Um, okay, everyone will think, oh, it's this derogative, but that where's the school with sissy, I guess. Yeah, let's just call it that. When you think of such guys, sometimes you would think, oh, they grew up with only sisters, the only women in the family. But obviously, that's not the case. That's just what you believe. Because when you want to make sense of something and you don't have the facts right in front of us, we're going to try to collect things that make sense, right? Because as people, we need something to make sense, even if we have to make it up ourselves. That's how the brain works. If the brain has to make up a reason for why you feel sad, some people will feel really depressed and really stressed, and they'll be like, oh, it's just work. I'm just feeling down. But the inherent thing that's building up is what you're neglecting. You're just going to decide, I just think there is a for how I'm feeling. So I'm just going to assume it's this. And that's how you find people who can be sick. They have they're keeping illnesses. Like you can have people who are chronically ill, who have chronic pain, and they decide, no, it's just my posture or it's just this, but you actually have an underlying problem. But you decided, I'm just going to go for the easy fix so that I move on with my life. So same thing with that. You just decide that someone who is behaving this way is because of another thing that has similar traits. So you don't think a sissy is behaving like that because I know somehow they get along better with Guna, improves their raised by women. And majority, it's true. Because how else are you going to be able to bond with women when you weren't surrounded by that? I also feel like how your brain decides to adapt different phase is never the same. As I said, you can be in the same situation, same resources, everything, and you turn out differently. Same thing with that is how your brain decides to translate and put things together that makes things different. So yeah, I don't remember where I read this from. I'm not good at picking things and keeping the references, but there was a study that was done, I think it was in Sweden, where they started to pick 15 kids, like parents had kids and then they kept them in a very secluded environment and they didn't raise them with this thing of, oh, when you see your friend Stacy and she and she's crying, give her flowers, give her this to make her feel better. Then if you see your brother, maybe James, and he falls down and was like crying, like tell him stop crying, go and cry. They didn't do any in that thing of putting certain building basically indoctrination. And they just taught the people, decide, hey, if your friend is feeling down, comfort them. If they're crying, comfort them. Don't say, oh, you're a boy, don't cry. Or if you're like a girl and you want to do happy stuff, because when we were younger, you knew that if they're moving stuff in the classroom, they're going to ask the boys to pick the furniture. Because they're like, girls shouldn't carry stuff. But if there's someone who actually wants to, you have energy, and then they tell you, oh, put that down, let the boys do it. It puts that thing in your system of, oh, I'm not supposed to do this. So you start leaning towards the other side. I think that's why I don't believe in it, because every single thing, even if it's a tiny, it affects, like, is it a domino effect or by any small change kind of butterfly effect? The butterfly effect? Okay, I usually confuse those two. One small thing, insignificant, you feel it's not going to change the outcome, but it does. So yes, I don't believe in masculine or feminine energy. I be eager to bring that into existence. Just say that we all have that always. Like the way the Chinese have the yin and yang. We all have yin and yang in us. It's just that we need the balance of each. Yeah. But if you're a woman and you decide, okay, not you decide, you just happen to have more masculine than feminine, it's okay. Because there's so many anomalies made in the world. That doesn't mean it's a mistake. That doesn't mean it should be found a fault. So yes, things don't always pan out, but that's how things are. Nothing is going to come out the way you want it to or the way you wish it would. So feminine and masculine is not something I can subscribe to.
Then you're a straight woman, yeah? So when you think of that person you would want to date, how do they look like? Like, describe it, not just, and I'm not talking about physical appearance, I'm talking about like, what do they embody? What values they stand for? And I guess there I'll get what I want from probably what you think masculinity is.
So this is important. Okay, so this question. Thank God for growth, because I feel like first young you would have different values, but right now I'll think of someone who makes my life easier. Because even if I start listing physical qualities, we have different. Can I say it? I can find tall, dark person, and you feel like, oh yeah, they'll do it for me. But who they are as a person is not his. And also, an accident could happen and then they are wheelchair bombing. So I try and focus on physical pics. Physical attraction is there, but not physical attributes. And that's why it changes. You can find someone you are attracted to them because they're funny, but then you realize, oh, they actually have a nice smile. Oh, it actually meat is strong when you realize that they're unhelping and stuff. So something. So values, you have to be generous. Because a person who is generous is never going to leave you suffering. So there's so many people who believe, because I want to be independent and self-sufficient. And if I meet a person who's that generous, they'll be like, oh, you can do it yourself, right? Why do you need help? You're independent and self-sufficient. So generous, thoughtful. Because to be loved is to be seen, is to be. So I need someone to actually see me, not just see the ideally, you know. Yeah, intelligence just make my life easier. Because at the very end, the nativity don't matter. Yeah, that's why I don't believe it. Someone has to be in your league. What league is or what scale are you using for them to be in your league? Yeah, and also another thing, happiness is not a one size fits all. What makes majority happy doesn't have to make you like it. Stay on.
I feel that's a good breakdown. Now, back to abortion and the birth control pill. So body autonomy, that means you can have sex without the consequences. So my question is, do you think as a generation or as people right now we are able to handle unlimited sexual freedom?
We're able to handle.
Yeah.
Go. But that doesn't mean I want it to be scrapped out. Yeah. Two things can be right at the same time. Because when you think or you believe that, oh, yeah, this did a great thing, but the problem is bigger, right? It makes it seem like you are focusing so much on what's affecting you that you feel like how I feel about this should be what's catered to or what's catered for in this situation. So even if I see the downside of sexual urging, I'm not going to display a complete side because partly because I benefit from it, and I don't be hypocritic and pretend that, well, I'm not benefiting from it and I'm not being biased. But that's how we are. If something's benefiting us, we want it to stay in existence. But I would say it needs some control measures. But also, it's one of those things that, uh, in us, that thing that people say, if you can't beat them, join them. But I don't think that's the only choice. If you can't beat them, just take yourself out of the equation. Because another thing of control, we assume that we have limited choices, but keep looking for others. They are there. Just need to open your mind to other possibilities. And obviously, if you get another choice and it's higher to do, it has more resistance. But if it's in the end giving you the results you want, I think it's worth it. That's why if I don't want to unsubscribe to certain notions of things like how now hookup culture is normalized and sex is expected from guys after like the third, fourth date, some people are audacious on the first date, I can just decide to take myself out of the equation and decide, oh, that's fine, I got connected, but oh well, I got out of the equation. But then another person, another girl, would want that to be like, hey, I'm actually not into this full intimate romantic thing of building a connection. Has want to book up. That thing is, she now has the choice to do it, and good for her, because you all deserve to have choices the lives you want. Because in the end, you did this, and you should have thought of them after it. So yes, sexual deprivation has brought its downsides, but even if you wanted to take it out, it can't. So I guess prevention is better than cure. So if people can be made aware of the dangers, if women can be made aware of how men can use this newfound freedom, sexual freedoms that they have, then I think it's better because, yeah, it's not the ideal situation. We don't in a utopia, but it's the least we can do to save ourselves.
Okay. Now, talking about the advantages of the sexual revolution, we see that now women can be hyper independent, right? They don't need like a man or anything like it used to be back in the day. And now it has led to this theory that Chris Williamson calls the tall girl effect. He says now that women have been so advanced and hyper independent, they no longer need a man to survive. And then he talks about it in this manner of psychologically, women are hypergamous, right? So they date above themselves, like someone more intelligent, someone richer, someone, in like or a certain qualities. And I'm not saying it's true for all women, but most women are hypergamous. So what you were saying that even that women are hypergamous by nature, and they are now hyper independent, given they graduate more from college, they are now getting into STEM and they're outperforming men. So now he was saying that the selection of competent men to date has also lessened. So they have little men to like straight women have little men to go out with and form a valid relationship that will probably lead to marriage because of that defect. So I wanted to get your view on that. Do you think it's an actual problem a modern woman faces?
I wonder if I could classify it as a problem. Um, I think it's more of a challenge because a challenge is something that has a solution, right? As an immediate solution. Yeah. The fault by intending. Because as you said, it has increased to when being more high independent, more self-sufficient, that they don't need a man. But that now brings into question what women bring into the table, as they say, bring to the table, right? Because by then they were the providers, the protectors. But if you take that out of the equation, it now asks you, what else can you give me? Because if your selling point is your money, is your assets, is your protection that I also now can ascertain in, yeah, what are you going to give me? And that's now brings forth that, hey, as men, what else can you bring inside from that? Because if your selling point is now irrelevant, it now makes you want to invest more, like dig deeper and decide, what am I going to bring? Am I going to give a safety? Am I going to give out companionship? Yeah. The thing is, women always tell men what they want, but and men are much the best listeners because, as you said, men are more solution based. But not everything is in need of a solution. I could also know what the solution is. I just want to let it out. Because what's the thing of a problem shared is a problem not solved. Yes. So if what you are offering is not what I need, I'm not going to consider you as a potential partner. I'm not going to divert you this. But there's this clip of Beyonce going around where a woman said, a man doesn't have to buy flowers, but he can if he wants to. I'm going to pick out wants to. So they're literally, and then she mentioned other things. So they're saying, hey, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. But I want it, and I may pick on who wants to. So yes, it has increased women raising their standard, but it's a very slow progression because there's still people who are going to pick men that aren't, as if you said, competent. Yeah. So it's a slow progression. I just think that now men have to not see like, oh my God, they don't want me because I have nothing else to offer. Yeah, it just now has to, like, they now have to better their personality. I don't know if you've had this. It's a Western thing. I don't think does it come to Uganda, Africa. Male loneliness epidemic. Yeah. So I hadn't seen it here. So as it happens, things take a while to reach the side. But basically, men are saying no wants to entertain them, and for good reason because I need to generalize that men are bad conversationalists, but you're so used to being catered for. I can have a conversation with someone, and they're like, "Oh, hi, how are you doing? So, what do you do for work?" So I can ask them to tell me, and I have them passing back. Did I have it? It's like a one-way thing, and obviously not everyone does this, but the majority like do this. That becomes exhausting to talk to a guy. Because even how it's known that more women have a lot to want to talk about. They're like, oh yeah, women are always talking. But it's because we do it enough times that's how you form interests. Like if you decide to meet up with someone who you have shared interests in, obviously you're going to have so much more to talk about. And even if you don't, your curiosity is going to push you. But a lot of men are curious enough to ask women about things outside either sex or what they want. Yeah, they find it boring, they find it too much effort. And I think that's what's leading to women deciding, hey, it's exhausting talking to you guys. You guys don't even seem interested. It's like you like us, but we don't see you. It's like you tell us, hey, I like you. And I'm like, okay, let me see it for myself because our actions speak louder than words, right? And they're much more harder to do than words. I can just say, oh, I want to get rich. And it says words. And then I do nothing to do it and to like get them right. That's how we hear men. Like, oh yeah, I like you. I want to do this. I want to make you happy. And I'm like, okay, do it. I'm waiting for you to do it. But they don't do it. Because what they think makes us happy is what they think is actually what makes them happy. Yeah. That's why you can find men saying like, oh, I provide for her, I buy her bags, I take her for vacations. And obviously that's good. It will make them happy. But depending on the woman that you're with, it might not be enough. That's why I say love is never enough. If that's can even count as love, you need to do more. And the thing is with men, when they are chasing after something, not all at the foot to right? You're like throwing all the shots, yeah. But once you get it, it's like you decide. It's like playing a lottery. You keep going on and on and on until you get it, you win. Now you can just sit with the prize, right? But that's not how it is with women. Women need you to keep up the same energy. Because if not, it's like you're treating them like a game. No, I treat you like a game where you think, oh, you scored and that's enough. You can now live free in your winnings. But that's not the thing. So yes, women are more independent. They are raising their standards higher. I don't think we are living up to that yet, but we're trying because we now know that we deserve better. And we know that we can't get better. So that's why we're not entertaining anything. And also, in a way, we're learning from them because you're about to find a man entertaining something that is not solid. If he's entertaining someone, she is serving him. Even if you can't see it, that's the reason why that's still there. But women can be like, no, but I believe in his potential. He's going to he did this for me yesterday, and then the friends are like, yeah, but he ghosted you 3 weeks before that. What do you mean? Yeah. So I feel like we're now more like how we're hyper independent, how men were. We're gaining more and more aspects that men originally had that they're uncomfortable with because they see themselves like us, and that makes them uncomfortable. I believe it's my theory, by the way. I'm not speaking for all women, but this is my evaluation of everything I've seen. So yes, if I'm seeing that my counterpart is not tolerating shit and is actually benefiting them, and I also want to be happy, I'm going to do the same thing. So yes, that's what I think. It's not a bad thing. If you are affected by it, you can do better. Just yeah.
So the last question: if you are faced with, if you had a chance to talk, like I don't know if you've talked to one, but an incel, probably a man from the Red Pill movement, what would you say to that?
I want to use quick words right now. It's the keto footprint. I'll just say, so be entitled. Because I would just bring a random, very valuable fact that you can disagree with me if you can. But I've never had a female ex-cop. Because incel is actually a gender neutral term. It just happens that it's my, I think so. Because incel is voluntarily celebratory. So the fact that you are not getting some, as we can say, pisses you off. It's showing that you are entitled, like you feel entitled to a girl's body. And usually, because I kind of did some research in incels a bit and told me, the characteristics they tend to have, they are their ego is really high, but their self-esteem is really low, which is kind of counterintuitive, right? And then they have a deep-rooted hate for attractive people because they feel like, yeah, there is an I'm not dating some. Because all else is running to you, yeah? But then again, this is my take. I'm open to contradictions. But yes, and also, I feel like if you subscribe to a pill movement, but then you see that it's not working because obviously it's for circulating everywhere, and you have also maybe applied it to your life, and you see it's not working, and you decide I'm not doing it hard enough. There's this notion that some men have when they're running after a girl, and it's not working, and I think I should try hard, but it's more like you should stop. I feel like you should have the discernment to know when to run after something and know when to stop. So yeah, I feel like incels are very entitled and audacious because most of them can't, their focus is so much on the physical appearance when that's not enough to actually keep someone. Yeah. And when you think about the I want to say the root of the incel movement. You think, oh, it's rooted from feminism. No, I think it's rooted from the patriarchy. Because I feel like a patriarchy, misogynistic, patriarchy, because I have to add that. It's a cage. And we're all in it to self that the men are in a higher standing. That's why they can't see that as a problem. Because they see that the women are beneath and they're like, no, it's you guys, it's not us. But we're all in a cage because you can see that the patriarchy also liberates men. It's kind of, I won't say it stands, but it has aspects of it that stands to emotional growth. You can't exercise your emotional and nervous system regulation. Like how some men don't think anger is an emotion, but it is. It is an emotion. But because that's the one that they are more accustomed to, they think, and the one that's known as emotion is being sentimental, being empathetic, but women are prone to having. They don't think they're emotion, but they are. And when you don't exercise your emotional capacity, you don't know how to emotionally regulate yourself. That's why when an incel feels insulted or feels rejected, they take it so deep, like it's a personal attack. And that's why I want to say, not everything is about you. And this is to anyone, even if you're not an incel and something happens, when you take something as a personal attack, you're adding more problems to yourself. Because that's how they take it. They're like, oh, you're rejecting me because you don't think I'm worth it. And sometimes, yeah, maybe. But the main thing is, it's not really about you. You are not the running equation in that decision making. So yes, incels are very. I've seen a video where the doctor was saying how it's kind of attributed to like a mental health disorder because they tend to have hallucinations and delusions. And I'm like, no, they're just messed up by people who sadly sometimes incels, okay, not sometimes, incels are created. The media they consume. And the fact that they are mostly like the docile people who keep themselves the reserve. So the only way they connect the outside world is the internet. And the internet is not a door that you want to use to connect the outside world. So yes, incels are very something that I'm not researched enough about, but that's the little I can share.
I think yeah, largely I agree because essentially, like they're saying that incels it's a mental disorder. I find that laughable because now I was watching Adolescence by Phil Brighton. I think it was a brilliant portrayal of like the incel movement and the rape movement. It's usually known like people with mental diseases, mental illnesses. It's just like a normal boy subscribing to like a mass movement which he's not aware of, or which he has not really that deep to think deeply about. For example, like the rape movement, very many people don't have role models, at least for men. Like with the father crisis also, being raised by single moms also contributes to that. So they don't know how to be a man. And the way we are brought up, like that thing Jean Paul Sartre says, the only way you know about yourself is through other people. Because I tell you that, oh man, you're sensitive, and then we dig deep around that. Then we talk about it, then we verify if you're sensitive or not. So the only way you might want to know how to act like a man is by looking at other men, but you don't have a father figure in your life. Or you have a father figure, but you do not consider a role model enough, if that's even a word. So where did it turn to? Mass media, and the mass media will help people push far right and far left agendas. To the where people believe that Andrew Tate, Elon Musk, or Donald Trump is the perfect representation of masculinity. But then have other people who are like, I prefer Timothy or Tom Holland's kind of masculinity. So you're stuck in between, and then people come up and say that, oh, I talked to my girl about my feelings, she done to me. Then you're like, oh, that's what will happen if I talk to my girl about my feelings. Then the other one, I cry in front of my girl, something happened. Like, then another one tells you, I didn't talk to my girl, she didn't pray for the same reason. She's like, what should I do now? I'm stuck. So you end up subscribing to a mass media thing. That's why Andrew Tate was able to win so many people's hearts, because he was speaking something deep-rooted with these people's, yeah, he tapped into their rage. Exactly. That's better wording. He tapped into their rage, and yeah, he was able to like collectively connect with them. But just not mental illness or anything. It's just like mass media, and everyone is now allowed to say anything. Like I can just go on the internet and so, you know what, let's create women word and the air, and very many people cheer you on and they're like, yeah, that's the life. But I think that was a brilliant takedown. I'm very happy to have had you here to build on this topic. I think we have done a good job. And I will attach resources for those people who to go and research better, those people who want to read more about the social revolution, because there's various other Uganda scholar I would recommend is like Sylvia Tamale. just so many brilliant articles about the sexual revolution, controlling women's fertility, the patriarchy and religion, all that. I'll attach it down in the bio for you guys to check it out. So that will be it for today. Thank you for coming. It was a pleasure having me here, and it was a good conversation.